Guys, I'm teaming up with my good friend, retired Navy SEAL Jocko, and we're going to do something very special. Jocko started Jocko Fuel after finding out some of the supplements that he was buying for his family were filled with heavy metals and ingredients he wasn't aware of. He wanted a line of supplements and consumables that had all of the good, effective ingredients and none of the bad. So, he made it happen. I got set up with all of the key products, and I want to do the same for you. Jocko Go. They are energy drinks for clean, sustainable energy. Jocko Milk Protein for 30 grams of delicious grass-fed protein, plus a whole line of supplements to support mood, focus, hydration, and more. Jocko Fuel supplements are scientifically formulated and made with ingredients that are clinically tested. They are better for you options with no added sugar or artificial sweeteners and no gray area ingredients or banned substances. It is clean fuel without compromise, and right now you can get 20% off when you use the promo code Chael at JockoFuel.com or just click on the link below. Daniel Cormier was talking UFC 300 and he was giving his guess, and he said the fight's got to have a backstory and it's got to have bad blood. He said this is why you can't have Belal Muhammad and Leon Edwards. There's no backstory. They don't have heat with each other. Now, time out. What's he talking about? And see, it's always interesting, or at least to me. Now, 300's got me hooked, man. These guys have me hooked so much. If I send Dana a text trying to get to the bottom of this, I get an emoji back, which could lead me to 5 different conclusions. Like, I can't get anywhere with this. So when I hear Daniel talking about it, does he know something? Are you guys that way? When you hear Daniel talking about and speculating about 300, are you of the mind that perhaps the big bear knows and he's trying to do a swerve? He's speaking with the same intent that Dana is sending back the emojis. Just by example. Because see, there is something to be said for Daniel's theme. I don't feel that 300 is going to be wholly different than 100 and 200. I think it's going to be along that same vein. I don't think we're bringing somebody back. I don't think we're doing a spoof fight. I think we're going to have something that's very meaningful, that we want, that we need, that we just don't know that we want and we need. Now, Ariel Helwani told me as recently as this morning that I'm overthinking it and I need to let it go, but I can't. They got me. They got me on this. And when Daniel talks about, because see, when I talk about 300, it's not going to be wholly different than 200 or 100. Okay, let's play that tape back in your mind. Do you guys remember what 100 was? Okay, that was Lesnar versus Mir. Big deal. Mir is the one that stopped the Lesnar train and did his damnedest to break Brock's leg. Did his best to snap his leg in the center of that octagon. 200 was Cormier in DC. That thing was hot. There is no feud in MMA right now that is as hot as Lesnar Mir Part 2 or Cormier versus Jones Part 2. There's no feud. Except what we saw between Izzy and Duplessis. And the Izzy and Duplessis is so wildly fascinating. I maintain Duplessis did not fight Izzy because he backed down in an interview. That is somehow blasphemy that created a wedge between Red Pill and I, just for example. That created a wedge between Duplessis and I, just for example. I don't think it's blasphemy. I think it's on TV. It's exactly what I saw. He was going to fight Izzy. He then had an interview with Izzy. He then was not going to fight Izzy. And I don't say that to tease somebody for backing down. How fascinating is it that that same fight could happen on the biggest card of all time with those same two guys, but now they switched who's the champion. They've literally switched who's the challenger. That is an incredible moment, of which could only be cashed in on if we told the story the way that it happened. Now, I really don't want to beat that drum. I'm just sharing for you that I think Daniel makes a pretty good point. when he says it can't be Blahal and it can't be Leon. Now, that's a good match, and I believe that's the next match. I just believe that we demoted that match. I don't agree with Daniel that they don't have a backstory. It would be part 2, and part 1 did not end with an L or a W. It ended in an NC, which is wildly uncommon. One of them poked the other one in the eye. One of them was pissed off about getting poked in the eye. One of them was on an 8-fight win streak, which got interrupted. It's a very interesting match, but they haven't done a very good job of telling that story. Now, the reason that we know it won't be that match is there was an opportunity given and it got passed on. There was another opportunity to have it and it got passed on a second time publicly. And that's the reason I use the word demote. I felt like that fight was pretty hot. I felt like Leon had a lot of eyes on him right after he got done with Colby Covington, not to mention the way, thanks to Colby, the world was watching. Thanks to Leon, he got a takedown. It really surprised people. Joe Rogan was even talking about going, hey, what's he going to this wrestling for? Where'd this wrestling come from? I'm trying to take you back to December 16th. I'm trying to take you back to what was on that fight, what was riding on it, the way we all felt coming out of it. Having Blahal Muhammad in the front row, wearing the sunglasses, going backstage with Megan O'Leary and company, doing the media tour, and being told no. There's no way to build that back up and say that's going to the top of the bill on the biggest card ever. Surprise! I was just kidding when I said I didn't want it. There's no way to do that. You can still do that fight. You can still do it down the road. You can't do it here. You'll look desperate. And that's where things start to get interesting. It's one of the reasons I'm so vested and enveloped in what is the main event of 300. We were told that it would catch us by surprise. That's the problem with Izzy versus DDP. There's nothing about that that's a surprise. As a matter of fact, it was promised to us in August of last year. There would be zero surprise. You would have the champion versus the number 1 contender. Nothing about that is surprising. That's what we do over here. So while it's an awesome fight, I don't think it can be the fight. And I know that it's offered, by the way. I 100% can confirm for you, as Chael, who's anything but a journalist, but I will tell you, DDP has been offered Izzy for 300. Izzy has been offered DDP for 300. Neither was told it would be main event. And I don't know which one is holding that up. And I don't care. It isn't the point. The point is, if I come out tomorrow and tell you those guys are going to fight at 300, there's nothing that's a surprise about that. You have the champion fighting the number 1 contender. There's nothing that's a surprise, which is why I'm still on the hook here. I mean, there is one going around that is so colossally insane that has to do with Conor McGregor is going to fight Chandler, or it's Conor McGregor is going to fight Diaz. Just depends what dirt shit you decide to listen to. For the title at 165. And if you go and look under the unified rules, if you go and look at the commission, which sets the weight classes, not the UFC, right? Like you get the smart mark that comes to the room and goes, the UFC doesn't set the weight classes, the ABC does. They're right, but if you then go and do a further piece of research and look at the weight classes, the ABC does list 165 as a weight class. But if you did something like that, you would be signaling your desperation. As much as I want to see Max and Justin fight, nobody anywhere ever said, I want to see Max and Justin fight. So you start to run into this fine line of putting on really good matches together and looking as though I'm in need of a really good match. It starts, right? Which to me adds to the interest. Like if any part of that sounded like I'm teasing or complaining, I'm not. It's what's got me hooked. It's what's got me hooked, but it also what allows me to remove Blahal and Leon. So what's it going to be? What's it going to be at 300? And if you asked Izzy and you asked DDP and you don't have yeses back from both sides, it's hard to count on it. You got to have somebody you can count on. You got a media tour, you got press conferences, you got to weigh in, you got an actual fight. I cannot imagine in an era where we've had backup fighters that we would ever have the biggest fight of all time and not have a backup fighter. So now all of a sudden, Duplessis has not only got to agree to fight Izzy, he's got to agree to fight Chimaev if Izzy pulls out. DDP in his first ever title defense goes to the top of the bill and has to agree to fight maybe the best grappler in the division and maybe the best striker in the division. I mean, do you see where this starts to get really interesting? And all of a sudden, if we're just throwing them out and we're just starting to spread them around, why can't Bo Nickel fight for the championship? Tell me why. This whole thing, the whole DDP story, the whole rise to fame 100% traces itself back to Bo Nickel. And it's as though I'm the only one that remembers that.